This is breaking news on WDSU.
Time now is 1:15. We interrupt your regular programming to get you back to that breaking news we first brought to you at the end of WDSU News at noon. Saints head coach Sean Payton announced he is stepping away from the black and gold after a wild and crazy season with so many challenges. This is something that we all unfortunately expected to see happen. And joining us to talk a little bit more about this is sports anchor Fletcher Mackel live in studio. Fletcher, deep sigh, right?
Yeah, you're now talking about the two most important and influential people in the history of the Saints organization, and that is not an of-the-moment comment. Realize that Drew Brees retired last year. Sean Payton is now stepping away from the New Orleans Saints, presumably to take a break from football. He will have a media conference coming up at 3 o'clock that we will carry live here on WDSU, as well as our digital platforms. But after 16 years, 161 victories, a Super Bowl championship, the NFL Coach of the Year, the guy who, not single-handedly, but was instrumental in rebuilding this organization following Hurricane Katrina, is now stepping away from the NFL. It is, without question, a crazy, unpredictable situation. Drew Brees we saw coming. Sean Payton, not a lot of us saw coming. I believe we have Lance Moore via Zoom right now. Lance, of course, a Super Bowl champion, spent 8 years with Sean Payton. Sean Payton brought you into this league and helped make you the player you are. You have now been with us for 2 years, Lance, giving us tremendous insight and analysis. Just your thoughts when you heard this news break, Sean Payton stepping away from coaching.
Well, first you said Sean Payton was instrumental. I think that he was more than instrumental. He was obviously probably the key piece outside of Drew Brees. I mean, I think those two are the key pieces in the Saints organization being what it is today. With that being said, I'm not surprised. Honestly, there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on in this organization over the last several years that could be really, really taxing on a head coach. It's a lot of times we kind of forget about the human aspect of football players, coaches, the people that are out there to do a job to entertain us as fans, and you don't really think of the impact that a lot of these things could have on somebody, especially a guy like Coach Payton that's been around for so long and has had the success, as well as having success in the offseason doing broadcasting and being in the media world. So I don't know if this is necessarily him, being tired of being the coach and wanting to go to the media. I really don't know. I haven't spoken to him, but it doesn't surprise me knowing that there's been so much going on. And it could be emotionally, physically, mentally taxing on somebody, especially somebody that's as competitive as Sean Payton is.
Aubrey Killian is at the Black and Gold shop getting reaction from fans in Houdat Nation. We are stunned, we are surprised, but we're also thanking Coach Payton for making our lives a lot better when it comes to football, right, Aubrey?
Christina, that's exactly right. So we are live here in Metairie at the Black and Gold shop. A lot of people stunned by this news. We've got Norman joining us live. You've worked at this shop for how long?
Over 12 years.
Tell me, what was going through your heart when you found out this major development for the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans Saints?
Well, I'm just as shocked just as much as everybody else in the city, and I didn't expect this to happen. So I don't know where we go from here now.
Take a look at that report.
Sean Payton arrived in New Orleans at the Saints' lowest point, following Hurricane Katrina in a 2005 football season where the Black and Gold finished 3-13 overall. From day one, though, Payton was all business.
I want to be in a position where you think you can win, and I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if I'm looking forward to being the king of Mardi Gras, but I'm looking forward to being the head coach here of the Saints.
He would go on to quickly rebuild the Saints and lift the team to its greatest achievement, a championship in Super Bowl 44.
The greatest day in the history of our city. This team is the world champion team. We did it. Yeah, coach! Who that, coach? It's the greatest day in my life.
I don't think people can describe what it means for the city unless you were there during Katrina. The Saints team have given hope back to the hopeless. That, I think, says it all.
For 15 years, Payton teamed with future Hall of Fame quarterback Drew Brees to create one of the greatest offenses in league history. A true offensive innovator, capable of drawing up plays no defense could stop, and a quarterback who could execute the game plan at a level that made the Saints historic.
They're going to be remembered forever for just what they did on the football field. It's historic, and you know, for that to happen in this city, they waited 40 years for a winner, and then they got one of the most exciting products of all time to watch for a decade. That's pretty special.
In 2016, Sean Payton considered leaving the Saints, a change of scenery. His representatives explored a move to another NFL franchise. But in the end, Payton stayed. Here's what he said 6 years ago.
Fletcher said something a few weeks back, and it was, I can't recall, but I think it was something, you know, leave early a hero, stay late and become a villain. And if I have to someday become that villain, then I plan on staying until everyone says, you know, we're burning your wagon out of town.
No one is doing that. Payton is simply riding his wagon away into the sunset, taking a break away from the sport he's coached for more than 3 decades. Sean Payton leaves as the second longest tenured head coach in the NFL, behind only New England's Bill Belichick. He was the 3rd highest paid head coach, behind Belichick and Seattle's Pete Carroll. Overall, Sean Payton won 161 games in New Orleans. He was the 2006 NFL Coach of the Year, and his crowning achievement was, of course, hoisting the Lombardi Trophy and helping the franchise and the city rebuild.
And really quickly, Fletcher, I know we both talk a lot here. I'll share this story, and I do get emotional sometimes talking about this one. If this talks about the character of Sean Payton, Steve Gleason was diagnosed with ALS. He retired the season before that team won the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, he wasn't a part on the team. He was here. He married Michelle Barisco, a great girl. Steve Gleason does everything right, but he wasn't on the Super Bowl team, so he didn't get a ring. So years after that, in 2011, you mentioned Scott Brigida, and you and I were fortunate enough to be there. Scott Brigida goes, hey, I'm in town, guys. Why don't you come to this event at Mr. John's Steakhouse? We're like, great. And it was a surprise. And I think you and I may have been the only 2 non-Saints or football people there. It's kind of like we're looking around going, how did we end up here? But Sean Payton gave Steve Gleason a Super Bowl ring, which, talk about just a gesture that brought tears to your eyes, because it's like, wow, this guy helped lay the foundation in Steve Gleason, and Sean Payton wanted to pay him back and give him a Super Bowl ring, which it just speaks to his character right there.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're right. I was there with you. It was an emotional night. And it does speak to the character of Sean Payton to honor and recognize a guy who was on his first team and helped him build what became a Super Bowl champion. And that does say that's a great story. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing this right now, is to celebrate what Sean Payton meant to this community, to his players, to the city, and to the organization. And that's a great example of what he meant. And look, I always joke that Travers and I are not the most emotional people in the world, but anybody who was here when Sean Payton got to the city of New Orleans feels emotional and an emotional connection to him, because when a lot of people were, and I get emotional saying it, running away, he ran into the city. And that's something he didn't have to do. He could have waited and taken another head coaching job, and he didn't. And so I feel awkward getting emotional on TV like Travis.
No, look, I mean, here's
that is us.
Here's the thing. I'll say this.
About to make me cry over here.
But
Listen.
nonetheless, for a lot of people watching right now,
Yeah.
I think they feel the same way. To our viewers and to New Orleanians like us, he meant a lot to this community.
Time now, it's 2:33. We want to check in now as we continue to talk about memories and reflections from so many people. Our Emily Lane caught up with former Saints on 6 analyst Roman Harper, who we also know played for the Saints. Talked to him about what it means to see Coach Payton stepping away from the black and gold.
Okay, so just first off, what was your reaction?
I mean, I kind of knew something was going to happen, whether he was going to decide to come back or not. Just, you know, knowing people on the inside and people that actually know Sean and the conversations I've had. So I wasn't shocked by this move, nor was I surprised. I mean, you know, nature kind of runs its course. He's been there, 15, 16, almost 17 years. And for a coach to be there at any one place that long, at some point in time, somebody's going to want something different. Maybe Sean wants a little bit more power, or maybe he just truly needs a little bit of break from football. He's been doing this for, He was in his 40s when he took this job. Now he's closer to 60. So that's maybe some time to reevaluate. He just recently got married, and his kids are growing up. He's seen his son grow up all the way. I've seen his son grow all the way up through high school, and his daughter as well. So it's been a long time, and sometimes after so long, nature just runs its course and maybe just needs a break. And Sean's a great coach, and he'll still go down as history for what he's been able to do as an awesome head coach and play caller, and that will not change anything.
Got it. And one of the things I feel like you hear about just as a fan or an observer is just his intensity. Anything that you can say about what it's like working for him?
Well, him being a coach, the one thing I always said, and I stick with this forever, is that with under Sean Payton, you never felt like you were underdog. No matter what game it was, no matter what the situation was, you were supposed to go in there and win the ball game. And we always had a game plan to where he had already talked about it all week long, exactly how we were going to go about winning this football game. In a week-to-week basis, it was always different. And that is what you really learned and probably missed the most, is some of those meeting times, the little things, the nuance that goes into winning a football game, and why you celebrate after every win you get on Sundays in the NFL, because they're all so hard, and you put so much work and time and effort into each and every game plan just to be able to get a win on Sunday and then start all over again and do it again on Monday.
Got it. Thank you. But anything you can say about what you think he means to this city?
I mean, I don't have to put into words. Sean, I love Sean to death. He's, he drafted me. He's my first coach in the NFL. It's my first experience. And the best thing and craziest thing about it is that I was part of his first class as well. So we had a lot of firsts together. Literally, when you go into something where everything you do is like a shared experience where it's everybody's first, it's a different feeling. I was part of Sean's first win. I was part of Sean's, all these others first. And, you go through all those things together. And because of that, you'll walk together forever. Getting the small experiences, the intimate experiences, hanging out outside of football, going to his wedding. Like, those are the things that I remember, and all the relationships and the times. Not so much all the X's and O's and that's what the fans want to hear. But for me, it's going to be everything else in life. Seeing his son grow up, his daughter, like his whole family, like that is what that means the most to me about me and Sean and those personal relationships, is that how much we've grown together off the field, not so much on the field.
Yeah, we want to continue our coverage. We have a Sports Center anchor and former WDSU anchor himself, Stan Verrett, New Orleans native, proud member of Who Dat Nation. Stan Verrett joining us live on Zoom today. Stan, thank you so much for coming on to hang out with Fletcher and me as we reflect on Coach Payton and all the memories that he's given so many of us in Who Dat Nation. Let's just go ahead and get your thoughts.
Well, first of all, good to be with you guys. Secondly, I'm on vacation, you can probably tell, and I won't say where, but I will say that when I got here, there's someone who knows both me and Sean Payton, who was also here, said, "Hey, you just missed him. He was just here on vacation." So maybe I could have talked him out of it.
Thank you.
But no, it's I'm glad we sort of got prepared for it over the last couple of days, with the news sort of trickling out and it being a possibility, because it really stings. But he deserves to do what's best for his life. He totally transformed the perception of this franchise in the NFL and in sports. Brought a Super Bowl championship to New Orleans, one that Who Dat Nation had been waiting for since the franchise's inception, and that will stand forever. All those wonderful times in the Superdome that we all had, enjoying Saints victories, those memories will stand forever. So his legacy is secure here forever.
As we are just minutes away from the official news conference, the official announcement of Sean Payton stepping away from the Saints. It starts at 3 o'clock. Our Sharif Ishak is there at Airline. We're going to take you there now live.
The press conference is starting now. Yes, let's listen in.
see if I can get situated here a little bit.
It's my colleague, WDSU sports anchor Sharif Ishak, is at the Saints facility in Metairie. He is one of only a handful of reporters who was allowed in to listen to a very emotional 90-minute press conference, a farewell media conference, if you will, from Saints head coach Sean Payton.
Yeah, Fletcher, a very entertaining press conference for an hour and a half. Sean Payton reminisced from the time he got here until, well, the time he is leaving right now. What's next for Sean Payton? That's the big question on everyone's mind. Will he coach again? He said, well, not this season. It's just not in his heart, but he's not ruling it out in the future. And he doesn't want to use the word retirement. He said that a few times today. He did not want to use the word retirement. As for TV, he heard all those reports about possibly joining a network. He says he hasn't, talked to any networks yet, but he thinks he could be good at TV. But the other big question that has come to everyone's mind after 16 years as the Saints head coach, why now, Sean Payton? Why did Sean Payton want to leave the Saints now?
Every year you go to training camp, and the one unique thing about our job is it's entirely different than your summer. And I don't know if it was a year earlier, maybe, depending on when Drew retired. Look, he and I never discussed when his last game would be or when I'd be finished. I just felt like this season it was challenging for everyone. But man, I felt like it was time. I felt like it was time. I kind of knew maybe heading into training camp this might, but you don't share that with anyone. You think, well, let's see how the season goes, and we're working hard, and I felt the time was right for me. I felt the time was right.
All right, that is Saints head coach Sean Payton, or former Saints head coach Sean Payton, was here for 16 years. Very good career here in a black and gold uniform. He was asked if he had a chance to talk to some of the players. He said a handful so far. He's going to have a chance to talk to them throughout the next few weeks because some of the players aren't here right now, but no longer the head coach. And he actually gave a vote of confidence to his defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, as the possible next head coach of the black and gold. But certainly a big-time shocker, Fletcher, that Sean Payton actually did this. A lot of us didn't think it was going to happen, but here we are today. The Saints looking for a new head coach.
All right, Sharif, thank you very much. We'll hear more from Sharif coming up later in this newscast, as well as at 6 o'clock. Joining us live on the phone right now, Mr. Saint. Saints Hall of Fame quarterback Archie Manning. Archie, let me just get your initial take on Sean Payton stepping down. Obviously, you are someone who still lives in this city, someone who is so synonymous with the Saints, and now the greatest coach, in the history of the organization is stepping down. Just your initial thoughts.
Well, Fletcher, I'm not totally surprised. I get it, and coaching's tough. It takes so much out of it. And Sean, we all know him. We've watched him 16 years. He's all in. He's all in every day. He's in the off season, and just kind of like you said, it comes a time, and it wears on you. This past season was tough. So I understand it. And I feel good for Sean because I consider him a friend. He's been nice to me since he's been in our city, and I'm proud of him for everything he's accomplished, the coach that he's been, the success he's had, and just wish him all the best.
I think a lot of fans will appreciate me saying this. I wish you could have played for someone like Sean Payton. That would have been fantastic. You are someone who, again, is so synonymous with our city. You live uptown. You are part of the culture. You raised your family here. How much have you seen Sean Payton evolve and really embrace who and what we are? I remember interviewing him back in 2006, and he said, I don't really care if I'm the king of Carnival. I just want to be the Saints head coach. But he has really come around to embracing the idiosyncrasies of our city. He is a New Orleanian. Do you think, like you, he will forever be woven into the fabric of this community?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just so many good years. I mean, he along with Mickey Loomis and the whole organization, but Sean leading the way. He made our organization just what we wanted to be all those early years. It's what you want to be a contender. You want to be a winner. You want to be respected. You want the other teams, other coaches, other players to think highly of what's going on here. He just brought all that to the city and to the franchise, and it's not easy. And there's always hiccups along the way, tough losses. He's really one of the few coaches had to deal with hurricanes and other things, but he handles it. He's a tough guy. He's a good guy, and he's just one heck of a football coach.
Just your thoughts. You've been in this city a long time. You covered sports in this city, and obviously were very good to me in my career. But just your thoughts as somebody who's been around this organization, who is now the voice of the Saints. The news today, Sean Payton deciding to step away as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
I was stunned like a lot of people. I mean, even though I might have seen the, rumors on Sunday night and Monday for it to happen Tuesday afternoon, stunning. I mean, he's meant so much to this city. If you think back, and I remember so vividly, following the 2015 season, where a lot of talk about he might go somewhere else, and he had a press conference very similar to this. It was an hour plus, and he kind of, bared his soul, and you really got a feeling of what the city meant to him and the team meant to him, and we saw that and more today from Sean Payton, and he looks, he looks relieved. I mean, the season was tough. It was a grind, and I think he is ready for the next challenge. It's not retirement. It's the next challenge for him. It's a big loss for this football team. But we'll have to see what happens. But very happy for him. He looked very much at peace.
Fletcher, you are talking to so many people who knew Coach Payton well.
Yeah, absolutely, Christina. We're joined now live with Scott Fujita. Scott was the first free agent Sean Payton signed when he came to New Orleans. I talked about and got emotional talking about Sean Payton coming into New Orleans when so many people were leaving our city after Katrina. Scott Fujita is another one of those men that came into our city with his wife, Jacqueline, started a family here. He's now in Northern California. Great story what he's doing post-football. But Scott, thanks for taking a few minutes to join us. Just your thoughts on the news of Sean Payton stepping away from football after 16 years here with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, thanks, Fletcher. Appreciate the opportunity to join you. This news has just been coming to me in the last hour or two. You mentioned I have a real job, so I can't follow along the news all day long. But immediately, once news started to trickle out, my phone started blowing up just from the guys. The old fellas checking in. Hey, did you guys hear? So I think this is going to take a lot of time for all of us to digest and process this information because we know just what Sean has meant to all of us, just as men and his players, but also to an entire region. So you talked about what it was like to come to New Orleans at that such a unique moment in time, and to have folks who are willing to come in and embrace that and to be embraced in the way that we were. This is another critical time in Saints history. And I just hope as people process and digest this news, they also have a chance to really reflect and be introspective and recognize all that was accomplished. And so much credit goes to the Benson family and Mickey Loomis, the whole organization. But just for me personally, it's really hard to put into words how much Sean has meant to me and to my family and to my career. And again, certainly Mickey and the Benson family and organization, I owe them a lot for giving me a chance. But at the end of the day, Sean was the guy who knew who I was. We had a connection in Dallas. And when not a lot of other people were willing to give me a shot, Sean was willing to give me a shot. So I can't tell you how much I owe him as a man and as a coach, and just has given me so much. And I'm grateful for my experiences with him. I'm grateful for the memories that were created because of him. And I'm grateful for all the teammates now I can call friends and brothers because he brought them to that place. And what was experienced together is just something I'll never forget. So I'm still processing, still digesting. It went from him being retired to now stepping away. So I don't know where this pendulum might swing in the coming weeks and months. But all I know is Sean is the best coach I've ever played for. And I'm so proud to have been one of his players.
Yeah, Christina, I got my king cake. Also, Saints owner Gail Benson got her king cake. It was kind of a Ted Lasso moment when he gave her the king cake. And Miss Gail, how was that for you, sitting down, listening to Sean Payton for an hour and a half, reminisce about his time since being here since 2006?
You know, it was bittersweet. I mean, we're going to miss him a great deal. I think Sean is one of the greatest coaches in all of NFL football. I really, really believe that one day soon we will be in Canton talking about this when he is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
What did Sean mean to this franchise, this city, the fan base, everything he has done in his time here? If you can sum it up. I know it's been 16 years.
You know, he has lifted up this franchise to where it is today. Between he and the coaches, the players, and the fans, they've all lifted us up to where we are today, and I'm so grateful for everything that he's been able to do here.
Here at the end of the press conference, Sean mentioned 3 people try to talk him out of it. How hard did you try to get Sean to stay?
I did try very hard. He wanted to go away for a couple of weeks, and I thought that was a good idea. So he took a week off, and then he called and said, I'm going to take another week. And I said, I think that's great. And then he came back, and, you know, we talked, and he hadn't made a decision yet. And he made his decision late yesterday and early this morning.
Did you feel like this was coming for a little while?
Not really. I thought he was going to stay because he kept going back and forth. But, you know, he had done that in the past. So I felt like, you know, this wasn't going to happen.
What's next? Everyone wants to know, how do you replace a legend? How do you replace Drew Brees? Now you have to replace Sean Payton. What kind of type of coach you want to see next in this building to continue lifting this franchise up?
Well, I'm hoping that we can do the same thing that we did with Sean and Drew. And I feel like we're open for the task, and I think we'll be able to take care of it.
For all this, I guess, fans out there and everyone in the city who have followed Sean and are like, man, what are we going to do now? What's the message you give the fans and this is in the city now?
Stick with us. We're going to do better. We're going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Saints owner Gail Benson, as she sat through hour and a half of Sean Payton's ceremony as they, you know, gave him his flowers, as you would like to say. It was a great conversation. Sean reminiscing since the 2006 season, everything that has happened here. Drew Brees, the moments he has with Mickey Loomis, all the wins, all the losses, the Super Bowl, everything that meant to the fans, to the city. It was a great press conference, an hour and a half. I don't think anyone's ever heard Sean Payton talk for an hour and a half, but it was a great one, and now they have to figure out a way to replace a legend, just like they had to figure out a way to replace Drew Brees, which they're still doing. It's going to see who's going to be the next head coach. Sean Payton even said, hey, maybe Dennis Allen. He's on his staff. He's done a really good job. He's been part of the winning culture. Of course, we're going to have much more coming up from Sean Payton's press conference in a little bit. Back to you.
All right, we're joined now by Rob Ninkovich, former Saints player, won a couple of Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. Sean Payton actually mentioned you, Rob, in his press conference. Just your thoughts on him drafting you, you playing for him, and his retirement. Look, you have tight ties to the city of New Orleans. You know what Sean Payton and that team means to this city.
Yeah, I mean, I'm forever grateful, honestly, that Sean drafted me. Plenty of crazy stories on fate, and before the draft, I didn't necessarily want to come to New Orleans. My mom had asked me, what's the one city you don't want to be drafted by? And I said New Orleans. I didn't want to go to New Orleans. Obviously, Katrina had just hit, and they were going through a lot of that devastation. But honestly, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm married to a girl from Gretna. So, you know, now we have 3 children, and it's been a true blessing that all that took place.
Okay, so a tough and emotional day, certainly to say for Saints fans, to say the least.
That's right, and we're going to have more reaction from former players and our sports team coming up at 10 o'clock. Until then, you can read the latest online, WDSU.com.